welcome to the Publishing by the Numbers podcast. It is the very end of April, and this is a surprise extra podcast on mysteries because we started counting up the Sundays in the month and realized that we had a fifth Sunday. So we could stick with our mystery thriller focus. There's the word, the focus that we're going on here. And so you guys get an extra episode. A couple episodes ago, we talked about some different mystery tropes, and we promised that we would come back and we would talk about domestic thriller tropes in particular, because V loves them. And then I had a few people who sent me messages and said, can you talk about those sooner rather than later? And since we have an extra Sunday, we're going to talk about them now. So I am Jana Brown, and I'm here today with my wonderful co-host, Virginia Anderson. Hello, Virginia.
Hello.
CJ is usually with us, but she is not here today, so we're all sad. We have the sadness, but she will be back next week. And next month is going to be a business month, and we're going to talk about some businessy stuff before we go back to genres. We kind of figured that this will be a good way to mix it up if we have months where we really focus on genres, and then we have months where we're going to talk about craft things, or we're going to talk about, like we did the organizations stuff in March. So that way we keep things fresh and give you something to come back to. So today, where we're talking about domestic thrillers, so this is a genre where I am not an expert by any stretch of a spectral imagination. We have talked about my issues with horror and how it freaks my brain out. Well, a lot of what comes into psychological thrillers and domestic thrillers and that kind of thing also freaks my brain out. Because it's one thing when the bad guy is a ginormous dragon on his golden horde and you get to shoot arrows at him. And my brain takes fantasy violence that way and handles it. But with these, you're talking about real people and things that could really happen. And sometimes that level of realism is more than my brain can take. So today, V is going to be, we're going to play a game of Ask Virginia the Tropes. So I have a definition of what a thriller, a psychological thriller, and a domestic thriller is. This comes from K-Lytics, just to set the grounds for what we're talking about here. So a thriller is a genre whose primary feature is that it induces strong feelings of excitement, anxiety, tension, suspense, there we go, fear, and other similar emotions in its readers or viewers. In other words, it thrills the audience. A psychological thriller is one that emphasizes on the mental states of the characters, their perceptions, thoughts, distortions, and general struggle to grasp reality. Characters can have extreme psychological disorders, such as psychopaths, and 3 out of 10 people with split personalities, leading to the prime conflict with the other characters in the plot. Domestic thrillers take the aspects of psychological thrillers and apply them to interpersonal and familial relationships. So that comes from, there's a K-Lytics report on thrillers, and Alex Newton gave us the thriller and psychological thriller definition, and then we expanded that for what domestic thrillers are, because really domestic is a subgenre within thrillers and psychological thrillers. Did I get that right?
Yep, that's exactly right. And we'll put a link to get the K-Lytics report in our show notes, so you can have a read. It's really thorough. Like all K-Lytics reports, they are very thorough. So if that's the genre that you're interested, that's I would definitely go and get that report. Yeah, you got that all perfectly right. So domestic thrillers, it's obviously a bit of like subgenre within the big umbrella of psychological thriller, and yeah, no, that's perfect. Yeah.
And one of the things I noticed on his report is that the interest in this is going up and the supply is going down. So there's actually a pretty good gap in there for readers and listeners who are interested in writing in that genre. There's a supply problem, and so that can be a really good place to write. It's on his hot niches and all those kind of cool things. So V, it's waiting for you. It's your very own niche.
I'm just like, where do I even start? I have so many ideas. And I think you touched on a really good point where you said, if it's a dragon, a scary dragon in the fantasy land, your brain can cope with that. And I think my brain works exactly the opposite way, because it's in a fantasy land. I don't understand anything what's going on. Whereas this, thrillers, psychological thrillers, domestic thrillers, I can take my everyday life and turn into a plot for a book. So I have a lot of material that I can actually relate. You tell me about the I mean, I guess that says a lot about who I am as a person as well, maybe, but that's another conversation. But if you give me like all those issues within the family or between husband and wife, between siblings, I'm like, every day, all day, I can just tell you about all the different variations where we can take the plot to. So yeah, so it's and I think maybe because the reason why it's so popular and that there's a very high demand and the supply it's declining, which is a bit of a surprising, but it's a good surprise. I think it's because everyday people can really relate what's going on, with those dysfunction within families, especially when it comes to domestic thrillers. So that's why it's really a popular genre.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right, so to get into the tropes that are common in domestic thrillers, I went to our good friend ChatGPT and I asked it to tell me 10 top tropes that show up in domestic thrillers. So I'm going to tell you what ChatGPT told me, and then you can tell me whether you disagree, whether you've seen this before, and give us the lowdown on whether or not these are tropes that you think belong in domestic thrillers and that our listeners could use in their writing, or whether ChatGPT is completely up in the night and this is something that is completely and utterly mismatched. Because sometimes chat does this, and this is why we have a love-hate relationship with AI, where it's some things it does a really good job on, and sometimes it makes crap up, just like the rest of us. So, all right. So the number one that it came up with was having an unreliable narrator, where the protagonist is not entirely trustworthy.
Yeah. Yep. And so you often see, I think it's more, you see it more obviously, like say on a TV show where, you have the man character on screen, and for some reason, you just don't like that person. It's just straight away. And that's where your instinct kicks in. And very similar to mystery, I think the whole idea, the whole kind of attraction for that kind of genre is you also want to solve the mystery, but with a little bit more psychology involved. So when you start reading when I start reading a domestic thriller, I go to the question, who's done it? Who did it? And then you have this character that I just don't like him. I just don't like her. It's just, I think if they didn't do it, they are involved. And this is, I think it's intentional. So to kind of, have those kind of twists that you are like, no way, no, it must be him, it must be her. And then you realize that was very intentional. That was why the authors use that trope to set you on the wrong track. So yeah, no, absolutely.
All right, fantastic. All right, so the next one is characters having a secret past, some hidden secret that has never come up before and is now going to cause them problems.
Oh, all the time, especially in domestic thrillers, those family secrets. If you read a book like the Stig Larsen, The Girls with Dragon Tattoo, Family Secret, there's quite a few plots that are going on in parallel, but the main central part of the story is related to a dark secret that's been in the family, and the entire book turns around that. So all the time, yeah, all the time.
So maybe that ties then into ChatGPT's third one, which is centering around marriage troubles. But
Yeah,
because you would think a lot of those troubles are because of the secret hidden past stuff that never came up.
Yep. And then that's where like real life it's intertwined with fiction, and it's just it's almost a little bit cliche to think about, say, like a husband who is, maybe stay at home and who is a bit of a loser while the wife is really successful. And then there's maybe affairs involved. So this is a very, very common one, definitely.
Right. So this one has the small town secrets, which reminded me of something like the Stepford Wives, where you move in and you find out that the entire town that seems so perfect on the outside is really creepy.
Yep. The casual vacancy, that's happens in a
Oh.
small town. And it's this, what did I just watch recently? It's not a book, but I think it's based on the book. No, it's based on the true story. It's called The Watcher. It's on Netflix, where this couple move with their kids. They move into this really idyllic suburban house, like beautiful house, and then this entire community, it's problematic. So you start discovering those secrets and the alliances, the weird neighbors, and the people are just, yeah. So yeah, that's very much used, and it fits really well in a domestic thriller. So it's that kind of, you use that to set up the scene, the ambience. It's kind of like, often it's a little bit dark, and it's a little bit gray in the way how we describe the things. It's there's rain involved. I often think about a landscape like in Scotland or in like those Nordic Noir, where things are almost like in black and white only, and that's how you set the mood, the scene. Yeah, so no, it's yeah, very, very good ChatGPT.
It's doing great thus far.
Yeah.
All right, so here's a good one. I've seen stuff with this. The obsession, where a protagonist becomes obsessed with someone or something, and that leads them into danger.
Yeah, I think the obsession is probably a common thread for all psychological thrillers, or for all thrillers in like there's an element of obsession at different degrees, but often there's, yeah, that obsessive, it's that obsessive behavior that leads to the crime, that leads to the killing or whatever that is. So this is very and I don't think it's specific to domestic thriller. It's like across the entire genre. It's quite common.
Nice. All right, this is kind of a fun one. Gaslighting, psychological manipulation.
Yeah, I mean, it can't get any more real life. Like, it's just, that's why I'm so like, this is a good shit. Sorry. Really, really good. So especially way between the kind of the marital relationship, that gaslighting thing, it's very much used trope, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, this is a good one. Revenge. Do we ever have revenge when we're talking about our families? I mean, my family's perfect, so nobody would ever have cause for wanting revenge on each other. But what do you think?
Oh, this is actually gonna be the basis of my domestic thriller book. This is it's so great to explore, because it can be revenge. It's really a dish best served cold, and really it is, and you can really drag it, like not in a negative way, but like in a really positive way, set the scene, the reason why the main character is what they are today. It's because of something that happened in the past, and they are like obsessed with a single mission, and everything they do is to get revenge. And it is, yeah, and again, I watched a another Netflix show like this, like while I'm doing some other things. So it's a thriller, but it's a based like on the revenge. So it's a girl who's been bullied when she was at the school, and then 20 years later she come back and she get every single one of those bullies to pay for what they did to her. So it's great. And also it also shaped her as a person. the kind of person she is. You know, when you have a like single obsession, which is to get revenge, it shapes your entire life. She doesn't have any social life. She doesn't have any, you know, friends. She doesn't, none of those things matters to her. It's just about getting the revenge. And she planned it like to a T, everything. And it makes really fast page turner books when you have you have something like that. Yeah.
Nice. All right, this next one, I know I've seen it in thrillers, but it's one that I think that writing you have to be a little careful with, and that is child endangerment, using kids in order to pull the plot line around.
I don't really like to do anything around children in my books, just because I think it can be quite triggering for some people. So yeah, definitely it's used. Yeah, I've read, you know, book. I mean, to a certain extent, even the girl was dragon tattoo, you know, the secret is happened something in the past, in the one of the main characters past, and that's when she was a child and something happened to her. Like, there's going to be spoiler alert, I feel like that needs to be given.
Yeah.
But
spoilers.
So I think so something happened to that girl, and that's the reason why all the things are happening. And so it's definitely used, but I personally stay away from those things because I just think they are too sensitive topics.
Yeah, well, that was the one on the list that I'm like, I can see it, but that's I tread quite carefully. Okay, we have two more here. So the stalker, the protagonist may be being stalked by somebody or stalking somebody.
Yeah.
I think that ties in with the obsession.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like something like Gone Girl, that's a really good example. It's the domestic thriller. She what's her name? Gillian Flynn. She's the author of the book. This is just a masterpiece. I mean, and then that last minute twist, oh my God, like what? I'm just so impressed. It's amazing. It's that obsession. Yeah, it's connected with obsession, the stalking, and you know, I also, this is not a book, but a movie. The movie with Glenn Close and Michael Douglas. I think it's called The Indecent Proposal.
Yeah, Indecent Proposal.
She's this psycho stalker, like.
Yeah, they're doing a remake of that. I think it's for one of the streaming services. I know I've seen the trailer.
And Glenn Close is just a master, like in playing that stalker role. She was amazing. So yeah, this the stalker, it's a pretty common one. Yeah.
Okay, and the last one it has on here, and this one's a little generic, so I'm not sure if I'm going to give this one to ChatGPT or not. But it says unexpected twists and turns.
Yeah, I think that applies to, you know, yeah, pretty much everything, even in romance. I mean, I'm sure there are unexpected turns, and yeah. So yeah, no, C- on that one, ChatGPT.
Yeah, it's I guess it's not bad given that the rest of the list was pretty much spot on, but that one I'm like,
lazy.
Yeah, that you got lazy by that last one. All right, so if that's a C+, what would you give ChatGPT all in all for its top 10 domestic thriller tropes?
I would say a good A-, just because I never give anything like 100%. I don't know why. Don't know why. But a good A-. So that's a pretty good effort, I think.
Yeah, not bad, all said and done. So if we have listeners who are looking at writing domestic thrillers, if you were to come up with your top 5, books or television shows, or, your top 5 things they should study as being really, really excellent. You've already mentioned several. But what would be your top resources for them to use to say this is kind of how they feel and how the pacing works when you're working with the domestic thriller?
So within domestic thriller, there's also a bit like the Nordic Noir. That's one of my favorite subgenres to speak. So Stig Larsen, of course, with all, you know, the 3 trilogy with The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and so on. I actually don't think he wrote the other 2, or maybe he died before he finished writing them. But anyway, so anything by Stig Larsen, it's amazing. Jill Nesbo is another Nordic noir writer. So it's not domestic thrillers but it's detective. Like, so the main character is Harry something. It's the detective, and he's solving those crimes, like murders, and he has his own past and his own demons that he's going to work through it. So this is a really good one. I mean, there's another one. It's the person who wrote the book. What's the name? The person who wrote the book is called You Should Have Known, and they used the book, I think, and adapted into a TV show called The Undoing with Nicole Kidman and
is it Jane
Bar-
Korelitz?
I can't remember the author of the book, but the TV show is
We'll put it in the notes.
Yeah, the TV show is very similar to the TV show is called The Undoing, and it's very similar to the book. It's really good. It's good twist. Again, it's yeah. And did I mention
coming soon as the unknown? So it's Jane Korelitz. I will
here you go.
Add that to our list.
And did I mention Gillian Flynn? It's just amazing. It's just so well crafted. There's a Australian author that it's really, really good. I don't know if it's domestic thriller or I don't know. It's the Liane Moriarty. She's the one who wrote, you know, the Big Little Lies. You know that it's turned into a TV show with Nicole Kidman, Reese Witherspoon, and you know quite a few big other names. So the story takes place in that kind of little town where, you know, all the school parents know each other, and then there's a crime that's been committed, and there are parallel stories and how that crime connected all those 5 or 6 women together. So I don't know if it's not really traditional domestic story in the traditional sense, where it's not happening within the same family, but it definitely happens like in a small town where, you know, everyone knows everyone is everyone's business, and this is really, really good one. So that would be kind of my top ones that I can think of right now. Do you have any? I know that it's not really.
Oh gosh, not a bit.
Okay. Okay. So
like I said, I have my genres. They are wide and varied. This is not one of them because it makes my brain explode. And it's kind of nice that you know, we all have those things. We all have the genres that we have big hearty faces for, and then we have the ones that we're just like, oh no. Because like I say, for me, these are they're a little bit too real and a little bit too close to home, and they freak me out. So I will stick with my romances and my dragon books.
Yep. Yeah.
I do love a good mystery, but the psychological thrillers get a little bit more under my skin.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's this is totally my thing. So that's oh, and then another thing, it's not really domestic thriller, but part of thriller, it's the femme fatale thing, you know, like the whole thing around, you know, basic instinct kind of thriller. So this is you know, ChatGPT could have thought about that, but maybe it's not, because it's not part of domestic thriller. So anyway, I digress. But that's good, quite a few there. I really do have a thing for Nordic Noir. I think it's because the landscape, it gets dark really quickly.
Yeah, it does.
For a very long time, for quite a good chunk of the year. So you really set the atmosphere, the scenes, the mood, and there's nothing better than, you're inside warm, wrapped up in a blanket, cozy, with ideally some really great comfort food with you. And then you have one of those books that you can't put down. That's my idea of happiness, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, like I say, I spent some time, mine was the reverse of, instead of being inside and comfortable, I was out sitting on my deck soaking up the sunshine. But that same idea of someplace nice and comfortable, and you can read from there, and it's a good thing. So,
Yeah.
all right, well, that should be enough to get our listeners' brains going and hopefully to help them plug a few things in. And naturally, as you get your books completed, we will make sure that we update and we let people know, what you're doing and when they're going to come out, because that will be fun. And this brings us to our irrelevant part of the show. And what is something totally irrelevant in your world today, V?
Oh, it's so irrelevant that I'm like, how did that happen? So over Easter weekend, I went to a friend's place, and then I was following their car because we're going to the swimming pool, and then everything's fine, and then that was quite a few weeks ago, and received a letter yesterday in the mail, and it says, fine. I'm like, what? Apparently, I went through a red light. I got a $461 fine and 6 demerit points. So my driver license will have 13 points, and then it's 6 over because I think it's we'll have here like a double demerit weekend, so because it's a long Easter weekend. And if you do something like that over like that kind of weekend, you're losing twice the points. So it's supposed to be 3 and $461. Now I'm losing 6 points and almost like $500. Oh my God. I was like,
rude.
I was not happy. And the worst part is I think I kind of can see now what happened. When I was really like, no, I'm not going, but I'm going to follow the car, but no, I'm not going, but I'm going, but I'm not going, but I'm going. And then I went, and that was a bad decision. So that was my irrelevant moment. How about you?
Oh, goodness. I don't have any traffic irrelevant moments. My moment of irrelevancy is extreme gratitude that my dog is going into the doggy groomer this week, because she definitely needs it. It's finally, spring is finally springing in Utah, thank goodness. And so she has been loving it and going out and just rolling in the grass and in the leaves and all the stuff that didn't get entirely cleaned up. So she comes in and she's been shaved once since the beginning of the year, but that means she's pretty shaggy, and she is dragging all sorts of crap into my house because she rolls around in the leaves and then she comes in. And the folks who are going to help us with the yard cleanup have been backed up for ages because it's been either cold or raining. And finally we're starting to get into some decent weather where we can do the cleanup. But she gets to go and she gets to have doggy spa day. And doggy spa day is always lots of fun because we give her the head to toe treatment. She gets a bath, she gets everything clipped, and then they do her ears all cute, and they put a little neckerchief on her and the whole 9 yards, and she gets her teeth brushed and she gets her nails clipped, and they always use this little lavender cologne, and so she smells really good for about 2 weeks until it wears off. So she gets her whole doggy daycare. That's tomorrow. We're recording on a Wednesday, so tomorrow I get to take her in and she gets to go to the doggy spa, and she has a love-hate relationship with it because they feed her the best treats. And so she's always really excited when they start. And then usually by the end, she really just wants to go home. So she starts crying at them. But she has a regular gal who knows her, and it will be nice. So I'm taking my dog to the doggy spa.
Once you got it, once she's done, you should send a picture. We'll put that on our Facebook page.
Yes, I will. I will take pictures of her and her cuteness because she goes from shaggy beast, and then she is so cute when she's all trimmed up. She's also a lot skinnier because she's a sheepadoodle. So she's a sheepdog poodle cross. So when her fur gets long, it is poofy. She has got the poof, and that's perfect for our winters when it gets so cold. And she'll go run around in the snow and no problem. But this is why during the summertime we have to shave her down, and she becomes half the dog she used to be because all the goes away.
Do a before and after.
Before and after. All right. Tomorrow morning I'll take pictures before we go into the groomer, and we can have what happens after she comes back out of doggy
this
spa.
Is like a premium treatment. Like this is what I need to get one right now after so we're just moving house. After the move, I should get one, spa, like massages, a trimming of my nails and everything.
Soak in a hot tub. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's more expensive for humans than it is for dogs because she gets to spend the entire day, and it costs me like $80. I'm like, it's worth it just in not having to try to hold her down so I can shave her myself. Totally worth that. I will pay them their $80 happily, and she goes and she comes back and she'll be all pretty.
That's pretty good. I think $80 I get one hand done and one foot done, and that's about it.
Yeah, these days it's hard to get more than the world's most basic haircut for $80. You certainly can't get a cut and a color. So
definitely no way. But anyway, so that's a good one. That's
that'll be fun.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, before we digress anymore, thank you everybody for joining us on the show. You can find the show and the show notes at www.elantumdigital.com and follow the podcast on YouTube or your favorite podcast distributor. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and leave us a review. Thank you, and we'll see you all later. Bye-bye now.
Bye.